Welcome into. Well, I don't know. Is that it?
Yeah, you're live.
And we're waiting.
Okay. I don't know. My connection's terrible. I don't know. My connection should be better. I'm home. What the hell is this? All right. I'm sorry. I was waiting for the Biscayne Bay ad. I didn't see it come up. So that's how we go. All right. Oh, shoot. And now I lost you guys.
Welcome to
You're
the latest
collapsing like-
episode of All right, Greg, you take over.
3. There we go. Okay, welcome to the 4th floor, an extension of 5 on the floor here on the 5 Reasons Sports YouTube channel. I apologize for that. I am not at the arena tonight. Brady Hawk is. We also got Greg Sylvander, our producer Alejandro Villegas, and Jonathan Ramlikan. Ricky J. Mark is not here today. Perhaps he's preparing to suit up for the Heat tonight since they made it the other players. Oh, there he is. Okay, there we go. All right.
They didn't let me into the building.
That's right. We're sponsored, as always, by our friends over at Biscayne Bay Brewing. Biscayne Bay Brew, the official beer of the 5 Reasons Sports Network, also of the Miami Marlins, have been making some moves, by the way. You can check out Biscayne Bay Brew at the kiosks. They've got them at the 100 level and the 300 level. I recommend the Tropical Bay IPA. They've got it at various Whole Foods, Publix, Winn-Dixie's here in South Florida, Quarterdeck, many other restaurants that we do business with. You can find Biscayne Bay Brew. This is the only independent brewery in South Florida now. That's right, the only one. The other one that you heard of, they got bought out by a big chain. So support local. They support us, Biscayne Bay Brew. Check it out if you are at the game tonight. Also, our friend Mark Brown, markbrownpa.com. That is the guy, the man with a plan. If you got to get an estate plan together, reach out to Mark. He can help you go through it. You can reach him at 954-566. 5678 954-566 5678. He is based in North Lauderdale, just north of Cypress Creek Road off of Andrews. And again, he can help you not only with probate or setting up an estate plan, but also he's got a title company right there in-house. He can help you with your closing. If you're selling a property, you're buying a property, you want to reach out to Mark. He's also a huge Miami sports fan, as well as so many of our sponsors are. That's how they find us. So that'll give you something to talk about when you're going over who to give your money to. Speaking of money that's been given to someone, Bam Adebayo is a big piece of the Miami Heat. He's a big piece of their salary cap, but he's also a big piece of what they do. And it's always this thing, like you don't know what you got till it's gone. So there were a lot of Heat fans who've been freaking out over Bam being not aggressive enough, who are now freaking out about the fact that Bam's going to be out for a while. And so before we get into the ramifications of it, we want to go over our reporting. This is reported by 3 of us at the 5 Reasons Sports Network, including 2 of us here on Before Floor, that basically what you heard today from ESPN is best case scenario. And the report was there that Bam Adebayo, after his thumb surgery, would be out for 4 to 6 weeks. We are hearing longer. That 4 to 6 weeks, again, is best case scenario. Bam is a quick healer. We know that. He's been incredibly durable over the course of his career. But that this injury could be double that in terms of how long he's actually out, and could take him out until late February or maybe even early March, which takes him past the All-Star break, which means he's not playing in the All-Star game most likely, and also obviously puts the Heat at a significant deficit, not only in the front court, but just as a roster, because they have so many dead spots already, and now they've got another one, and that this time it's a really important one. So let's go here, and I guess we're going to get into the Bam ramifications. We'll do this quicker tonight, but Brady, you can unmute there at the arena. Other than Bam, who we know is going to be out for weeks, who else is out tonight?
Yeah, so the other big name on the roster, no Jimmy Butler tonight. Tyler Herro was probable, and he was just warming up just now when I was out there. He looks like he's pretty much going to play. So it's going to be interesting. I think the interesting way is that Tyler definitely plugs into the starting lineup again, hurting probably your 6 man of the year bet that's going on right now. Dedmon slots in there too, probably for Bam. The interesting thing is just how the bench production goes, because we know Gabe, Strus, and Caleb are going to be off the bench. They get their 9-man rotation back, but the question becomes who's that 9th guy. Omer was just warming up, and feels like many people think that's going to be the case. I don't think they go small with KZ, and I wouldn't be surprised if they go with Haslam. Like, I feel like they trust him more at this stage than Yurtseven. So it feels like this is going to be an interesting one. It feels like when you're without Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, I don't think it's the worst choice to go with an energy spark in a home game with Udonis Haslam.
All right, so let's get to the Bam ramifications, Greg. And I know not even you could kind of sugarcoat this one completely on Twitter. There's so many things that he does, even when people complain about the things he doesn't do. He's obviously an elite defender for a big man, not just on the interior, but also with switches. And he basically anchors their defense in that regard. And then offensively, secondary ball handler, very good passer, and also gives them 19 a night, which, I know that wasn't enough for some people. But, I mean, this was already a team we thought would be challenged to score, and now they're without another guy. So we'll pivot to kind of how they replace him in terms of players and the front court and everything, and they don't have Morris still. Okay, God knows when he's going to be back. But just how do they replace his production on both ends?
You hit on it on the quick one you did on YouTube, season ticket. Like essentially, they need all of their high salary guys. One, they need to be available. So that's like something we need to move towards. And then they all have to be far more productive than they've ever been. They're going to need higher percent to total points scored on any given night from Kyle, Tyler, and Jimmy. And that's just how that has to go. And you're going to have other guys step up. I am optimistic about Dwayne Dedmon in the starting lineup. And I know we'll talk about the options later. You're not going to reproduce what Bam does. So I think they're going to have to look at playing slightly differently. I expect Spo to go small a lot. I think he's going to get really interesting lineups out there with some 5-ball for PJ and maybe even Jimmy. I don't know. And with you don't know how long Markieff is out. It's so weird. You can't replace Bam, but I think they can survive this stretch. Like, to me, it doesn't feel like, oh no, the Heat's season is basically like punted. Like I'm not there at all.
Well, I don't think it's punted, but I also think I think some of their aspirations, which were top 3 seed in the East, I think are going to be a little out of reach here. And to me, it's staying out of the play-in. I feel like that's going to be the objective as we pivot here. But Jonathan, let's look at again some of the options front court. I'm with Greg that they may try to play a little smaller here, but it's not like they got a lot of options there either. I mean, again, there's dead roster spots everywhere on this team. And I'm saving the money question because I want to get into a philosophical discussion with Ricky about it here. But Jonathan, like what do they? What do they do? I mean, with Dedmon, he's a rebounder. You're not going to play through him. He's not going to handle the ball a whole lot, right? So what do they go? Where do they go?
I was thinking about this, and I think that PJ Tucker kind of replicates a few of the things that Bam does, right? He's a really good screen setter. He's also really good operating out of the dribble handoff as well. He has those little short floaters from the inside, and he also has that corner 3. So obviously we don't have one single person to replace what Bam does. Dedmon is going to replace his spot in the starting lineup, but as far as who's going to do the little things that Bam was doing, I think we're going to see PJ do more of those things. And as far as the production we're going to have to get, like you said, it's going to have to be a team effort. We're going to have to see Dedmon produce a little bit more, look to him to score against the rim, but it's a big lineup in Cleveland, so it's going to be a little tough for him tonight, right? But I think over the period of time, we're going to have to see Dedmon just be really strong in the paint, hit those little short looks that he was doing a really good job of doing, maybe hit a 3 here or there, but it's going to have to be more of a combined effort from everybody. But as far as replacing Bam, I think PJ will probably be able to do most of or not most, but some of the things that he does on the court.
Ricky, I'm reminded of the 2000-2001 season when Zoe went out, and there was really no understanding of when or if he would ever be back, actually, at that point. I mean, when that happened in training camp, and they had put together a really nice team, good collection of players, a team that actually in some ways reminded me of this team. We've talked about it. And then, they pivoted, okay? They made changes. That was Riley, okay? Brian Grant went, played more 5. Anthony Mason played the 4. They moved Bruce Bowen in. Then you look at 2015-16, a team that I covered that basically, Chris Bosh goes out. They had struggled a little with Bosh in there. And then Luol Deng moves to the 4. Spoelstra does that, and they take off. Like, this is a team that has made these kind of adjustments. But to me, I don't know why this one feels like it's going to be tougher. I just because they don't have anybody close to what Bam is.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Miami, let's be clear about one thing. Miami doesn't have anything close to what Bam is when he's aggressive. Okay?
Right.
Because if he's not, what are you getting, right? Let me give you just one more, and then I'll get into my spiel. How about this? 2005, 2006, when Shaq hurt his ankle against the Pacers, they had Alonzo Mourning starting those games. And
right.
I mean, granted, he wasn't what Shaq was at that time, but he was still Alonzo Mourning. Okay. Now, the thing with this, the situation that Miami is currently facing is it is going to be tough because Markieff Morris messed around and found out, so he's been out ever since. Dedmon is, well, he wasn't playing basketball 11 months ago. And KZ Okpala, I'm a KZ guy, but, hasn't really shown you anything. Udonis Haslam's 41 years old. This is going to hurt for a little bit. Like, I know it's important for us to tell Heat fans everything's going to be okay, but I also believe it's important to be real with them too, when times are tough. It's going to be a little rough. However, in the last few games, we've been talking a lot about how Bam hasn't really been producing, and yet Miami has managed to make things work. I think what the key aspect of this is, once Jimmy is able to recover from this tough stretch that I believe he's going to be going to, I think it was Greg, you might have mentioned that Ira may have said something about Butler possibly being out for this trip. Correct me if I'm wrong, please.
That's correct.
But the thing is, we are going to need to see production and results out of the other guy that Miami paid a lot of money to this offseason, and that's Kyle Lowry.
Right.
Make or break time. Look, I know I don't mean to be dramatic or anything like that. But hello now. Okay, It's time. My concern heading into the situation was, this is a guy who's, I think, 34, 35, if not 36 right now, and perhaps his best days are behind him. He's going to need to dig deep. Now, last year, heading into the playoffs, the Heat were viewed by some as like the potential underdog. They'll get it together. It's like 05-06 where they struggled, even though they won 50 games in 05-06 and I think 44 last year or something like that. This could be a time this season where if they get everybody back late in the season, they could make some noise and cause some problems. However, they got to get there, meaning they can't drop easy games. Kyle Lowry's going to have to bring it. Jimmy's going to have to bring it. Tyler's going to have to bring it. Everybody's going to have to be have a collective effort. The problem right now, however, is, and I'll just close by saying this, I'm not convinced by the depth of this team right now. Unless KZ wants to turn into, KZ Pippen out of nowhere, minus the contradictions every 5 seconds on whether or not LeBron's the greatest. Miami's going to have some work. They have a lot of work cut out for them. Can we be optimistic? I don't know.
I pretty much agreed with everything Ricky just said, straight up.
Well, and I want to get to Brady on the lineup here in a second and some things, because I think the Tyler thing is something we're going to have to talk about here. But Greg, I do want to address this just from a financial standpoint, because we talk about whether the Heat are all in or they're not, right? And I think they showed enough early this season to maybe convince the owner that they can be competitive in the Eastern Conference this year, that they can compete for an Eastern Conference Finals and all the rest. And so that maybe it may be worth dipping into the tax potentially. I think the Heat have shown enough to make somewhat of that case, okay? And I understand there are ramifications from repeater tax and all the rest of this. But this roster is damn thin, and part of it is because they didn't want to spend into the tax, okay?
Right.
And so I mean, there aren't a lot of opportunities out there that necessarily make you better right now. But if one arises, I don't know how you tell your players you're not going to improve the roster this time, like, right? I mean, don't they have to investigate it?
You're so right. And I think like it is worth saying, like, are you really all about winning? Like, is the main thing?
Right.
Because like we talk about repeater tax, are you going to have a repeater roster that is as good as this roster? Because you can see how quickly you go from a big three era to Hassan Whiteside era, and then we all go into depression. So like that happens fast. I think that they need to just understand that this moment may be just as important as subsequent moments. And you're right, like an open roster spot sitting there wide open. You have your biannual exception. That's $3.7 million. That basically means you can outbid if there's anybody out there worth that kind of money. And if you were to, this is the other avenue. You could take Yurtseven and KZ, put them together, and at 125% of their salary, you could get a $4 million player back, and you would go over the tax. But again, these are all the levers that you can pull. And if you're in, you're in. The other school of thought is, while Bam is out, let's see if we're actually, to Ricky's point, going to be able to stay above water, because you don't want to go into the tax and then miss the playoffs also. So like that's
I'll say this, and Greg, I'm going to Brady now, but I have to go back and look, okay? But I do recall that in 2000, 2001, and 2015, 2016, those 2 years that they kind of survived the absences of Zoe and Bosch, right, in those respective years, I do believe they added, okay? And I'm going to have to take a look at it. I don't know. Maybe you and I will do some research on that before tonight's pod. But I do believe that they did add a piece, but I don't know that the tax or going into the tax was a factor. But
Anthony Mason?
No, Mace was there already. So
Yeah, he
Mace,
was there
they had added Mason in the offseason. But
I'll investigate.
I remember they added a piece. I covered both teams, home and road. I should know this. But I remember they added a piece both years, and I just got to go back and look. But, Brady, I want to get into this because Tyler's playing tonight, okay? And this has gone now from him being a really good story and exceeding everybody's expectations this year to him being, like, absolutely the center of this whole damn thing, okay? And I don't mean positionally, but, like, they are – and I'm with Ricky this entirely, and I've said this. They need more from Kyle Lowry at $30 million a year, okay? They do, okay? He's got to be aggressive. Him setting up other guys is not sufficient now. But Tyler's the guy who's proven he can score this year. You may not have Jimmy for a period of time and you don't have Bam. Is it the time where we start to say Tyler Herro is going to be a starter here for the duration? As much as I hate that from my bet and I hate it for the way that the team is structured, like they're gonna need offense in the starting lineup now, right? So
smiling right now.
Is it time? I mean, does this force Spoelstra's hand permanently, not just tonight?
I think without Jimmy Butler, that's the case. Like any night Jimmy doesn't play, it's going to be Tyler playing. But if Jimmy returns, you're not sitting here saying that Tyler's starting because I don't think you're moving Jimmy to a 4 in a starting lineup, even though I think you probably should in many cases if you're playing a small team. I just can't see him going to the Tyler Duncan type of starting lineup. I think the question becomes, this is 100% Tyler Herro's offense. Like there's no doubt about that. Jimmy or not, like this is not his team, but it's his offense that he's going to get plenty of shot attempts. He's going to have the ball in his hands more than ever just because as much as we talk about Bam's aggression, he was initiating a lot of stuff from the mid-posts we talked about on that pod and just from different areas that Kyle and Tyler is going to be running some very different offense. To Greg's point before that, they're going to have to shift some things. It's going to look a lot different, but I think the one thing we're going to see consistently is Tyler. Like this has to be a Tyler Herro game if they want to beat Cleveland tonight without Jimmy Butler. Like there's no doubt about that. But I think to shift this conversation a little bit, talk about this game specifically, if they're going to win this game, I think this is a PJ Tucker game. Like Jonathan touched on PJ Tucker before, but the reason we're talking about a team that's lacking bigs, this is probably one of the biggest teams you could possibly go against to start out that stretch. They're playing with a small forward that's a 7-footer. So you're like looking at 3 bigs in a starting lineup. I just wonder what's next in that sense. Like, do they go small? Do they go big? I think PJ Tucker is allowing them to pull a big out. And I think if he hits the corner 3, it's pretty much a good deal for them offensively. Like, this is not going to be a rolling game for PJ Tucker. This is going to be a 3-point shooting game for him. I think he needs to shoot the ball more because we get to these type of games. I know this has never been his thing, but one shot attempt, it feels like they need that because he's a 45% catch and shoot player this year. Like, shoot the ball because they absolutely need that right now.
Yeah, no doubt. I will say this. I think ultimately, and I'm with you that for now it's probably Herro just starts when Butler's out. But the way to survive this for this team may be to go to a little bit of a 7-11 type thing like we saw in 16-17, where you ride Lowry and Herro for as long as you can. You see if you can develop chemistry between the two of them like they found with Dragic and Waiters that year. That may be the way to go because they're just going to be so much smaller than other teams. And I don't know. The Omer experiment to me, Jonathan, like I loved what we saw in Summer League, but I warned everybody that doesn't mean it's going to translate to the regular season. I don't know. What are you expecting him? Because I think Heat fans are that was the impulse today. Well, Omer is going to play now, right? But I haven't seen enough from Omer to believe that like he's going to contribute in a significant way.
Yeah, it's tough to say that he'll really give any significant contributions. I mean, he's really slow-footed still. He's figuring out kind of where to position himself and kind of what to do, when to do things. He's second-guessing himself. So he still has a lot to go before he's confident in everything he does. As far as production goes, I mean, he can give you something. I mean, he has a shot, right? He's shown that he's willing to take that shot. Sometimes he's able to get around the boards depending on who he has on him. But I think with the monstrously large lineup that Cleveland has with Mobley, Allen, Kevin Love, Lauri Markkanen, these are really, really lengthy guys, and a couple of those guys can bang down low. This is not a game where we're really thriving, right? Could we see maybe over this stretch of time, see him develop into something, see some things that we can take out of moving forward? For sure. But as far as contributions right now, I don't think we get much out of him.
All right, let's get to it. Let's go around the horn here real quick because we're already 20-minute mark. We want to let Brady get in position there. Alex is going to be at the game tonight. I mean, Brady, it sounds like you have a formula for them tonight. Can they execute it? Can they win?
Yeah, I think they can. Like we talked about this against Denver, where Greg said this is like a trap game where you don't have the pressure. Like this is the games they do good against, but there's no Nikola Jokic on the other side here. Obviously, you're without Jimmy Butler, and Tyler Herro were the guys out. Now it's a little different, but I think you feel a little bit more comfortable in this matchup if you have a Tyler Herro offensive force, and I think that is the formula. Like a big Tyler game essentially wins you this. Not that Cleveland's a bad team. They had a hot start. They still have a lot of talent on the floor. No Sexton, obviously. But it just feels like this is a game that they get, in my opinion. I think this is a big PJ Tucker game. As I said, I think this is a game where he has 17, 18 points all of a sudden and they win.
Greg?
They better damn win this game because now they're going up at Indy, at Milwaukee back-to-back. Like, that is never fun. So I feel like they're going to put a lot of effort into getting this one, particularly on the heels of that last game. So I'm confident today because I'm going to be less confident as we head towards the weekend.
Ricky?
Look, it's the Cleveland Cavaliers, all right? I don't care who's over there. You're supposed to beat the Cleveland Cavaliers. Win this game because the next two are going to be L's.
Yeah, probably. Jonathan?
Yeah, I'm taking the Heat. I know we talked about wanting a little bit more from Kyle Lowry. Between his points and assists last game, he gave us 50 points out of, I think, 111. So he's still giving us a lot of production offensively. I think he'll be able to lead the team in assists. I think Tyler Herro leads the team in scoring, and I think we find a way to get it done.
Boy, I want to feel like you guys do tonight, but I'm not making it a clean sweep. I don't know. I don't like him against this front line tonight. I just don't. I think that the second chance points are going to hit him tonight, and I think that we're going to be having a discussion after the game that for as much criticism as Bam was getting, that he's absolutely essential to what they do. Of course, if Jimmy was playing, I would feel differently about this, but there's going to be an adjustment period here. And here's the other thing. It's deflating. Okay, it's deflating. Okay, you find out that you're sent. And look, they know what the truth is for how long he's going to be out, regardless of what the reports are out there. Okay, they know it's going to be a long period of time. Teams adjust, but it doesn't always happen right away. And I remember that with those two teams also that we talked about, the 2000-2001 team and the 2015-16 team. So I think they lose a heartbreaker tonight.
You're picking the Cavs, Cleeth and Skolnick?
People are going to be all over me about that, but yeah, Well,
I think it's because he's revving himself up to head there for All-Star Weekend, so he's trying to get in good with the Clevelanders.
Greg, there's one less reason now because the Heat's going to have one fewer representative in that game. But I do think the thing that can save them here is Kyle Lowry turning back the clock a little bit in terms of his offensive aggressiveness. It's in there. He needs
a new battery.
He needs something. But I don't care about the 15, 14 assists tonight. I want to see 20 points. I want to see his capability of doing that and producing that because they got to make up for, I think, what's going to be a rebounding deficit tonight. All right. Go to prizepicks.com. Use the code 5. I haven't even looked at the board yet, but you guys might want to check that out. And see
no Heat players were on the board. They took all of them off.
They took them all off. So, yeah. But you guys can go on and bet something else. Post up 5 hour after the game. Greg and I on the pod after the game. Brady and Alex at the game. Have a good night.
Halftime, paces and spaces.
Halftime, paces and spaces.
Shout out to Sean. I tried.
Get away to that 9, then 20, then 24-point deficit.
There were a lot of factors to that. Obviously giving up, the amount of points that we did with the field goal percentage allowed, it's tough to win games like that. I think in the first half, we had some miscues defensively, and we didn't make shots, and so. You never know if the missing shots affects your defense. That's a really good team. Obviously, Jokic can facilitate. They're extremely well coached. So you have to be on top of your game. Our defense is better than that. I think they played extremely well. And then in those pivotal moments during the course of the game, it seemed like they made every shot and every play when there was any kind of momentum, to start trying to get the thing under 10. And that's a credit to them.
Eric, what was the difference between Bam in the first half and then in the third quarter?
I don't know. Sometimes it's context of game. I just think we missed some open looks and some shots we typically make in the first half, and then I think we as a group got out of rhythm. And I have to actually take a look at it, to necessarily see. But I kind of like the looks that we were getting in the first half based on how they're defending. We just missed some of them, and the response going to the other end, the next play speed and the ability to get the stop, even when things aren't necessarily going well for you offensively, I don't think was our best version of ourselves. But I think they had a lot to say with that, as well. Things picked up in the third quarter, for us, but we still weren't defending. They were scoring every single time. We never got, to the three, any kind of like momentum of 3 or 4 straight stops.
So you guys have been using a 9-man rotation for most of the season. I know guys were out tonight, but the decision to go with 8 men tonight, was it just a matter of just not wanting to change the rotation too much with guys?
Yeah, it's always tough. I had a bunch of different plans going into this, and all of a sudden you get down 15, 18 points. That'll change your plans pretty quickly.
I know when you don't have Jimmy, it changes things, but you've said you sometimes go zone if the man's not working, you change things up. Do you like how much you've had to use the zone?
I don't mind it. Weeks? I didn't like our defense tonight. That's pretty clear. I don't mind it. It's you have to read your team, and that's been pretty good for us. And I think probably overall it was pretty good for us tonight. They did make some shots, and even some tough shots. The young kid hit some long bombs. But I think overall, I think our zone was pretty stable. It was probably in that short sample, probably more effective than our man, but that's not saying a whole lot.
Eric, is it tough to match desperation in this league? I mean, they're starting a long trip. They just found out they're probably not going to have Porter the rest of the way. They'd lost 6 in a row. They were desperate. I mean, is it possible to manufacture desperation, I guess, when you're facing a team that has it?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we were pretty desperate too. Like, they just outplayed us. And I know, the things going into this game for them, but we had some things going for us too. Like, the road trip didn't necessarily go exactly how we wanted it to. But they played a really good basketball game, and we didn't have enough responses to that, all of us.
Eric, I know you say you want Duncan to keep shooting, and that you have confidence in him as a shooter. Do you have any theory though on the road he's shooting about what he has shot here over the past 3 years, but at home he's around 21% from 3. Do you have any theories on that?
I don't. And he had some good looks at it tonight. I thought he was assertive, like looking for his shots. He was creating some pretty good triggers for us, when they were trapping him on his catches. He just has to stay with it. I don't have an answer for why it would be different. It's probably a little bit too short of a sample size, this early in the season.
All right, Coach, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
What did you change between the first half and the second half with your performance?
Ball started going in the hole. I mean, that's the bottom line. I can't keep having these slow starts. I gotta come out like that from the jump and then keep it consistent throughout the game.
Bam, similar to what I asked Max. I know Jimmy was out and you guys have missed guys here and there, but as good as the zone has been for you guys at times, is the man-to-man defense where you guys want it right now?
I mean, we throw the zone in there to get a little mismatch, and then obviously if it's working, spowing the team, we stick with it because it's flowing. I feel like every once in a while we get caught in a lot of miscommunications throughout the zone. When fatigue starts to set in, we have to over communicate, And then when the next guy comes in, he has to be even more vocal to the other guys. And I feel like that's a lot of, that's what 2-3 is. Puts everybody on a string to the point where you have to communicate. And when you don't communicate, you have, those lapses where they're wide open. So I feel like in the zone, we just got to communicate. And in the man, we got to guard our yard.
You were still hitting a bunch of shots, but you were flexing your hand a little bit. Did something happen during the game to it?
No, I'm all right.
Go off of Coop's question there. You said if last week, I think last home game, that you guys are still figuring out things defensively. How much of it is kind of just everybody in and out, dealing with certain injuries, and seems like a different guys in out each game?
Find a way. That's our motto. When we get down guys, when it looks slim, when it looks bad, find a way. That's our motto. That's what we live by.
Bam, particularly in the zone, it seemed like there were certain situations where they were kind of getting in the center of the floor, basically, and making plays from there. Are there a lot? You feel that there are enough options you guys can go to in the zone when they start to figure out how to attack it?
Yeah. At that point, we gotta adjust when they make the adjustment. So I feel like a couple of times we were like a couple seconds late. Fatigue sets in, and you don't communicate as much. So I feel like that's the possessions you really see when like somebody's just open and they get like an easy basket or easy layup.
All right, Bam. Thank you.
Black Lives Matter, people.
A three or some other shot. Well, defensively, what were some of the issues that hurt you guys tonight?
We couldn't get a stop. Basically, we couldn't get a stop. They did a good job of just playing their game. Getting to the MVP of last year, and he had another game. It's just one of the games where they made 18 of 35 threes. So got to give up something. And then they took advantage of that.
Kyle, for the most part, the zone has been really good for you guys. And we know that its effectiveness as a kind of a change of pace in small samples, but is the zone usage, the more we've seen of it, is it covering up for any slippage in the man-to-man?
Yeah, I mean, it's a change of pace, but it's also something coach goes to when we feel like we need to, hide, not avoid foul trouble. Kind of, mix up the isolation that teams are doing on us. But, it's just one of those old things where, the zone is effective at times and, it's been good for us.
You play with some really good shooters. And I know you joked early in the year how you and Duncan couldn't make a shot during the good times or whatever, but is there something as a leader you can do to sort of keep his confidence up? And are you surprised, knowing what you knew of him coming in, that he's had these kind of struggles and they've sort of now extended through the first quarter of the season?
I know Duncan's a heck of a shooter, right? And we all understood that what he is and what he was doing and how he could get the ball off and how many shots he can make. But I think just right now, just got to keep, not necessarily say feeding him and keep pushing him to keep going, but we got to find more opportunities for him to get more standstill threes and threes where he hasn't. Defenders are not as close to him. Maybe we kind of just let him play decoy for a little bit and get him some shots to the easier ones. A lot of our offense is him moving and getting open and getting handoffs from Bam and getting the shots off. And, who knows, we may need to just, hey, single side tag. If someone helps you, knock it down, who knows? I mean, that's not my decision. That's just thoughts.
then on the other hand, is it comforting to know that there's a guy like Max waiting in the wings? So if one guy is off, Max can come in and sort of do what he did today.
I mean, Max played great. He's building off of coming back from his knee injury and just getting back in the rhythm into a groove. So, it's not all about our offense. Our defense is where we should be hanging our hats a little bit more. We shot 47%, but they shot 58. So, it wasn't necessarily our offense. It's more about the defensive end.
All right, Kyle, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Earned Spo's trust to a degree. And I'm curious as to, in your view, what have you done so far in a relatively short amount of time with this franchise to earn that trust?
I try to do a good job of just being consistent and energy-wise, playing defense, make sure I'm in the right spots. I'm still learning rotations and reads with certain guys that I don't get a ton of reps with, like tonight. A lot with that starting group since I started tonight. So just trying to be consistent, bring energy, just know what he's going to get from me, and just kind of plug and play.
And outside of Jimmy, you've clearly enjoyed running the floor, especially when Kyle's out there. Is this just the kind of team where if you run hard down the other side, you're going to get the ball?
Yeah, I mean that's part of one of the jobs I have is is him trusting me, is just getting down the floor. I try to do my best of being consistently one of the first guys down the floor, just to create space and keep the tempo up. And a lot of things open up if I run the floor and get guys like Duncan and Max and them and guys open shots. So, but yeah, you also get rewarded when you run the floor, so it's always a good thing.
Caleb, it seemed like every time you guys try to make a run, they would make a three. What were some of the issues defensively that hurt you guys tonight?
I don't know. It was a lot, honestly, tonight. Part of that could be just, guys, we got a ton of reps with guys with each other that we typically don't sometimes. And sometimes that's just a little bit of still gaining chemistry throughout the roster. And just miscommunication and things like that. We got to stay locked in, especially with a team like that. They feed off mistakes, especially with someone like Jokic who passed the ball so well, and those guys cut so confidently because they never know when the ball is coming. So everybody cuts to score. So those are tough teams to play when everybody cuts with a purpose like that. So whenever you aren't locked in for possession or zone out for possession, that could be whenever guys get open looks. So, sometimes they just, we just have some stuff to work out, and we'll go through that on film and figure it out.
All right, that's it. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Max, I know it's not either or with you with Duncan. In a perfect world, I'm sure you would love for him to be hitting all the shots and you would hit all your shots and make life easier. But are there moments when you're sitting on the bench and going, it may not be Dunk's night, I might need to do a little bit more? And sort of how did it feel today to sort of be able to get on that little bit of a roll?
It didn't really matter. At the end of the day, we still lost the game, so I don't really care about my personal play. But Duncan's going to be fine. Duncan's one of the best shooters in the world. So whatever he's going through right now, he'll get out of it. I trust him, and he puts in the work. He's here more than anybody else, so he's going to be just fine.
Max, Spo said sometimes he'll go to zone if the man is just not working, if you guys need a change of pace. There's been a lot of zone lately, especially compared to earlier in the season. Has there been slippage on the man side of things?
Yeah, I think you could say that. I think we all individually got to be better on the ball and take it more personal. But the zone mixes it up, and it worked for us for a little bit, but I think it's good to switch it up and give teams a different look. But defensively, we all got to be better.
Max, like in golf, if a guy's struggling with putting, it's not uncommon for another golfer to go up and say, hey, try this. In baseball, same thing when a guy's in a slump. When a shooter's going through one, do you say something to Duncan? Do you point things out, or is it so individualized that shooters have to find their way out on their own?
Nah, Duncan knows exactly what he's doing. He's just got paid $90 million. I think he's good enough. So he's an unbelievable shooter, and he'll be fine. Trust me, it'll all come around. It's just, like you said, it's just a slump, and he'll get out of it. But anything I can do to be there to support him or anything like that, shoot with him, I'm always there for him, and he knows that. So we're always there for each other.
All right, Max, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, those were the press conferences after the loss. The Miami Heat lost to the Denver Nuggets a couple of nights ago. Tonight they're going to be facing the Cleveland Cavaliers, and this is a starting five for the Miami Heat. Dwayne Dedmon is going to be starting in place of Bam Adebayo. Here in a second, we're going to play a report made by Ethan Skolnick earlier on our YouTube channel, talking a little bit about how's that injury, how's that surgery process, and how long that takes for people to actually recover and come back to play at a high level. So Dedmon, Duncan Robinson, Tyler Herro, PJ Tucker, and Kyle Lowry, that's the starting five for the Miami Heat tonight. Sadly, a lot of injuries. Jimmy Butler still recovering and is not going to be available tonight. He's not going to be available on the weekend either. The Miami Heat plays the Indiana Pacers on Friday, and then the Milwaukee Bucks on Saturday on a back-to-back quick road trip before coming back to Miami on Monday to face the Memphis Grizzlies. So we're waiting for the video. It's almost done. There it is. So we're ready to play it. The report made by Ethan Skolnick earlier today, talking about the surgery that Bam Adebayo will undergo here soon and the process of recovery and how long it can take.
Ethan Skolnick for 5 on the floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, and this is the latest season ticket sponsored by PrizePicks.com. Use the code 5. So a bad news day for the Miami Heat today. First, they find out that they're going to lose a second-round pick. The league decided that because of their pursuit of Kyle Lowry, because of tampering or not tampering, it's not quite clear, but they're going to lose a second-round pick. More importantly, though, they're going to lose Bam Adebayo for an extended period of time. Now, if you watch the game on Monday, the loss in which Adebayo started really slow and then had a strong third quarter, had 15 points and 5 rebounds during the third quarter alone, he was flexing his thumb and his hand quite a bit. Asked after the game about it, he said, "No, I'm fine." Turns out he's not fine. He's got a torn ligament in there. Now, the estimate in terms of a timetable, there's a little bit of a discrepancy here. We are hearing something very different from what ESPN reported. Now, the Miami Heat basically didn't give a timetable. It's not their practice to do so. We know that sometimes when they do, even behind the scenes, it's a little bit short of what it actually turns out to be. Think of like situations with Mike Miller, Justice Winslow, etc. ESPN came out and said 4 to 6 weeks. We're hearing that is a conservative best case scenario, 4 to 6 weeks, and it's likely to be close to twice as long as that. Now, if that's the case, you're talking about a bunch of issues here, not just for the team, but for Adebayo himself. First, let's start here. He's not going to win Defensive Player of the Year. Obviously, he misses that much time. Second, okay, he's not going to be in the All-Star game because the All-Star game is in February, and it doesn't appear that Adebayo will be back before that, or if he is, it'll be a very short period of time, but more likely after that. But for the Heat, there are a lot of ramifications. I mean, first, as frustrated as Heat fans may have been with the passive nature of Bam on offense at times, he does so many different things for this team, right? I mean, he's a secondary ball handler. He is still their most productive rebounder, even though those numbers had tailed off, and that appeared to be somewhat due to a knee that was bothering him, so at least he gets to rest that for a period of time now. But also, we know that he can score, he gets to the line, he settles them in a lot of different ways, and he's basically the most versatile big man defender in the entire league, a guy who can get out and guard guards as well as forwards and centers. And so they're going to miss him, no question about it, and I think there's going to be much more appreciation for him in his absence than there was in his presence. But the other issue here is the Heat were thin in the front court to begin with, okay? They're still short a roster spot because they don't want to pay the luxury tax. And we also know they've got a couple of guys, Udonis Haslem and KZ Okpala, who don't play a whole lot. Omer Yurtseven wasn't playing a whole lot. Now it seems like he's going to have to off the bench because Dwayne Dedmon is going to start. Oh, and by the way, nobody's heard anything about Markieff Morris, right? Like, it's been now 12 games since Nikola Jokic blindsided him. Jokic missed just one game. And the team has just titled it as Whiplash, but we really haven't heard anything about Morris except, quote-unquote, he's making progress. But, I mean, again, it's been a dozen games. They kind of need Markieff Morris now, right? Maybe not as a starter, and maybe you let Dedmon start, but maybe off the bench to at least have a veteran there along with Yurtseven, or if you want to go small, you can play Morris at the 5 and maybe play Caleb Martin a little bit at the 4. So the Heat are a little bit down on options. The crazy thing about this is, we were talking about when Victor Oladipo would come back, right? Well, his timetable as we have it was kind of in that January, February range. He might be back before Bam. Now, that would totally change the way that this team plays because they would be so guard heavy. So it's terrible timing. It means that you're going to have fewer dribble handoffs, which also is detrimental to Duncan Robinson, who is having his own trouble. And it also means you're going to need more scoring, not just from Jimmy Butler, of course, and Tyler Herro, but from Kyle Lowry. He's going to have to be much more aggressive than he has been, and he's got to give them some 20-point nights because Bam, again, for all the concerns about, well, was he aggressive enough? Was he an alpha? Was he going to take the next step? He still was giving you close to 20 a night. That's hard to replace, particularly from a player who can do so many other things. So we'll see what happens. We'll have more coverage here on 5 Reasons YouTube, 5 on the floor, and of course we'll have our people at the game tonight against Cleveland.
All right, that was Ethan Skolnick's report a little bit more than an hour ago as the BAM news broke up on Twitter. So thank you very much for joining us today on the pregame show. Again, the starting lineup for the Miami Heat today: Dedmon Robinson, Herro, Tucker, and Lowry. Dedmon Robinson, Herro, Tucker, and Lowry. That's going to be the starting 5 for the Miami Heat tonight, facing the Cleveland Cavaliers here in about a little bit more than 10 minutes. Remember, join us during halftime for Pace and Spaces on Twitter, and then right after the game, we're going to be here for the post-game show for the Miami Heat Cleveland Cavaliers game. Again, the last one before they travel to Indiana and Milwaukee during the weekend, for the weekend, Friday and Saturday, back-to-back games, and then they will be coming back on Monday to FTX Arena here in Miami. So have a good night, enjoy the game, and we will see you later tonight.